Maybe a kind of a general comment. I think that it's a common misunderstanding about the global brain vision. It's the idea that it's some kind of a centralized thing that will make decisions for everybody. The whole idea is that it's what I call distributed intelligence, which is more than collective intelligence. Collective intelligence means that with all agents together you come to some kind of a collective decision. Distributed intelligence means that agents in different places with different problems come to decisions that may apply to this local thing, but that together, through the coordination with the others, leads to synergy. So you need to have as much diversity as possible in order to get the innovation, as you say, in order to avoid all the typical problems of groupthink and so on. But then you strive for coordination. And coordination, in the worst case, means you have your opinion, I have my opinion, we're not going to fight with each other, we just leave each other there. In a better way, you have your opinion, I have my opinion, maybe together we come to something even better than the two together. So the idea of the global brain is that it's a huge coordination mechanism, a self-organizing coordination mechanism, like examples you gave, like how being happen in ant hills, in beehives, etc. But of course it needs to be something much more sophisticated. And all the things I have seen in the future ICT project, they all fit perfectly within the philosophy of the global brain. The global brain, I think, is useful as a concept because you know that the end result will have to be global and it will have to be integrated. It will have to be one system. It will not be as now different countries that each together are supposedly autonomous, but that actually cannot do anything without affecting the others, and therefore they need either to get into conflict or to make all kind of very complicated compromises. That's not the right level at which to solve the problems. The problems should be solved from the bottom up, and Wikipedia is indeed the ideal example that I also always gave of a global brain-like institution.
Although they also try to establish one view, on each subject there's just one article. They've eventually learned that they would have a controversial discussion in order to kind of reflect different points of view. But in the beginning, they didn't do that until they noticed that they get these battles about pages and changing back and forth, and that the only solution was basically to have different points of view featured and kind of reflect the controversy in that page.
Yeah, I think that's as I said, that's the minimal coordination. That's to say, you put the different opinions next to each other and you say, that's my opinion, that's your opinion, we won't fight about it. That's the minimal coordination. Ideally, you've got to come to an integrated view. If you can't, you just put the opinions next to each other.
Yeah, just so I fully agree with what you're saying. You, however, need to be aware that there is a danger of misperception by the public, and even misuse of misperception by certain players, who may want to have this one global brain that's going to be the super brain that determines everything. We're running into a situation where platforms like Sentient World are trying to simulate every single individual and their interactions, feeding these individuals with personal data about everybody's behavior. And that kind of seems to lead into a situation where you have a representative in this world simulation, and that world simulation will figure out for you and for everybody what will be done.
That's not the right idea.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I consider that very dangerous, but I believe that there are some very powerful people who are building these kind of systems who believe that it will be good enough to have everybody represented and feed personal data into this in order to have as realistic representation of yourself in the simulation as possible, and then basically have your digital representative decide for you. That brings us into quite awkward situations that you have this representative in the computer simulation, and that one says one thing, and you say, okay, but I don't think I'm well represented by this agent. You know, but one day it might happen that people will just say, okay, sorry, but then you have to make sure that the information about you is more correct. But we're just going ahead with...
But the information about you is infinite. You cannot put every single atom of your body in its particular configuration in that simulation, which means that at any moment there will be some place where your simulation diverges from you. And that is my big ongoing debate that I have with people in AI. They believe too much in representations. Models, we know from science, are very useful, but they are approximate, they make mistakes. As soon as a system is complex, like we said with the weather, we know they will start to deviate. That is why you need to be constantly interacting with the real world. That's why no person would be stupid enough to make a model of the weather and say, well, in 6 months I predict it will be that model, that's it, I don't need to make any more measurements, I already know the weather in 6 months. No, each day they update their weather forecast because they know that what they predict, what the model says and what the real world says is not the same. That is why whatever model you make, like you said, it will need a digital nervous system, it will need a planetary nervous system, because it will constantly need to correct and add. And that means that it needs to be embedded or embodied, as the term is in cognitive science, it needs to be embodied into the real world. So
yeah, but some people would just conclude, okay, in order to improve the prediction of this tool, yeah, and so they would say, don't complain about the system that is not perfect. What we need to do and what we will do, they will argue, is to have more sensors to measure more accurate information about everything at every time and every place, and thereby kind of promoting surveillance infrastructure all over the place, you know, ignoring that for physical reasons, for principal reasons like quantum mechanics, Heisenberg principle, chaos theory, turbulence, and maybe others. It's principally not possible to go beyond a certain level of precision. But it will, you know, it will. This argument will come up to basically spread tons of sensors all over our world, and some people argue, you know, we need that to take better decisions. But everything depends on how you use this kind of information, whether that turns into something that will improve the state of our world, or may turn it into a horrible disaster, a surveillance society where we are not anymore being asked what we think is right or wrong.
I don't think that this will end only in surveillance system, because this metaphor of planetary nervous system, we know a nervous system is fed by sensors, but it also has actuators. I can see a future where not only you surveil what is happening, but you take care that the people or the humans will fit the representation. Not only the representation will fit the humans, because if the humans will fit the representation, you will have better predictions. So a system that wants to control everything will want also to create a network of actuators that will make sure that you will behave as predictable.
Yeah, okay, but the question is that the kind of world that will work? In fact, we are already having a situation which I'm sometimes joking about, like we are all being controlled from Cupertino, you know, like the kind of information that we get from Google and Apple and all those companies, they select what we see, they can manipulate our decisions, you know. And I do think that people are using their brains less and less because these devices are doing a lot of thinking for them. And so we are already becoming part of this system where we're being steered by computers what we should do. But I think that we will end in a situation that reduces our innovation capacity, and that's why this kind of approach will fail. But at the moment, this is what we see, that people and certain companies and certain institutions are trying they're trying this kind of model that collecting information, manipulate people's decisions, everything will be fine, you know. But if we just behave like an atom in a crystal, you know, what a boring world would that be, you know? It would not be worth being born. So that's a very important point.
It's exactly the conclusion I came to, because 50 years ago IBM said, man should think computers should work. Computers should think, man should think computers should work. Sorry. Man should think computers should work. Right? Now it is computers should think man should do nothing. And we just look and enjoy the rest of the world. We come to a beatitude of doing nothing, which is just not achievable. Right? You cannot put the intelligence into a computer to think the computer do it all for you, and you just enjoy and look and say, let's sit back and enjoy the world. It doesn't work like that. You're embedded, you're part of it, you're a system, and it's both the computer, both the system, and the individual. As soon as you eliminate the individual, there is no more system.
Yes.
Full circle.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
I wanted to say that it depends heavily on what the big companies, and including the financial world, is thinking about it. They are stealing many things in the world.
Well, that can change. If we would build this participatory system, you know, I think that can be done with the resources that we have. We just have to coordinate ourselves and do it, and that would change everything. Because if it would work, that these few companies and these few individuals in politics and business decide what's going to happen in the world, if that would work well enough, that would be okay for me. But many people seem to feel that the kind of decisions that are taken and the course that our world is taking is actually not improving, it's not good enough, it's not as good as it could be. And so from that point of view, I think there will be driving forces that will go towards a more participatory system sooner or later. I'm just not sure whether we have this kind of top-down surveillance society before that, or whether we can skip it and go into this participatory 21st century right away. And everything depends, I believe, on the current discussion about surveillance and privacy and so on. So we need to keep this discussion going, because otherwise I'm quite worried about this.
When you showed the example of the Colosseum in Rome, so the idea of, if I would want to say, I ask myself the question, what does the Colosseum look like? And what you were sort of saying, I think, is that I would, instead of asking this question to Google, and Google looks in its database, I send this question to some sort of open network with people with cameras, and they are taking pictures, and they agreed that these pictures can be used, and so it gets to me. But the one problem I see there compared to the Google system is that it's far more expensive in terms of, in terms of throughput and data streams that are coming from all these cameras, and it has to be put together, and it takes 24 hours now. Maybe in the future it will go faster, but it's not as efficient in a way as just constructing the 3D picture and putting it in your database as Google
You
might
can
do.
certainly
So
do it in a way that those questions that come up frequently enough, that stuff will go into a database, and you know.
but maybe
you
there's
implement forgetting that those kinds of information that not enough people are interested in will eventually disappear. So,
but maybe there is the more difficult. So if you want to really have sort of a grassroots, bottom-up, open system where the user has his couple of sensors on a camera and so on, that's kind of there. It exists. But what seems more difficult to me is to have this database structure. That's quite expensive to have. You need to have big server space. You need to have very fast connections and so on. So and
it
the
depends on
examples.
how much stuff you're really storing in the end.
Right.
And I'm not sure whether we are not ending up in this situation where 99% of data recorded are kind of useless. It's more becoming important what are the useful bits of information, and to be much more targeted in getting these bits of information. I don't think we need to have these server farms because you can come up with a peer-to-peer storage system, for example, right? And that basically can be done in a way that's more or less self-maintaining, in principle, yeah? So, from that point of view, I think it's doable. Yeah. We just need to work together to create that kind of a system.
Yes, that's kind of the other question I would have was, what sort of incentives do you see? You gave some examples of sort of like the Olympics, so some sort of competitive system, but a friendly competitive system.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
because I think that's the crucial question. When you have a company like Google doing it, it's money, it's advertisement that makes the whole system work. If you do it with private persons helping, then you need some other.
No, I think you can come up with a micro-payment system, whatever that's based on, whether that's reputation, as we've been discussing over lunch, or something else. But then, you can upload data, you can upload algorithms and ratings and whatever. And when other people are using it, you would get micropayments in exchange.
I would like to add the perspective of somebody who was a World Wide Web pioneer, was the first one to have a website in Belgium, one of the first complex websites in the world. So I have seen it go. And basically you could say that the web until 1998 about was all open access, all public, all self-organization, all participatory. And it's around 1998 that companies suddenly discovered the commercial potential of the web. And then things changed. But before that, all these things were happening like you described. And there were also very big things. They didn't yet have such powerful computers as Google, but there were search engines, there was hypertext, there were communities, there were facts about all kinds of possible questions where you could find your answers to your questions. There was free software, there were free documents. It was all there, just at a smaller scale, and that was purely participatory. There was no commercial thing involved. It's just that because these big firms having a lot of money were able to kind of monopolize the attention of the new people who joined, who didn't know about this kind of open source philosophy, that they kind of made it disappear to the background, but it's still there. And it
okay, but
like
that basically tells you that after some time, when a new thing has emerged, people will discover the commercial value, and commerce will capture the whole thing, and turn it into something else. But the consequence is you come up with a new emerging thing, which is our function of the system, where we say, okay, we build it together.
Yep.
Why should we wait for Google to give us the data? We just create our own data. Now, if you consider that there will be this exponential growth of data production, and I think within 1 year or even 1 day, now we are producing as much data as in the time from the start of human history to 2003. That means it doesn't matter the 2,000 years of data that we haven't collected, because we can create that much data within just a year. No. Google will not necessarily be the most valuable company in the world forever. As there will be as there's an Internet of Things in the future, there will be an abundance of data, and data will be cheap. Like every single thing about this reality will be measured 10 times by 10 different companies, or even 100 different companies, whatever. So I think generating data will not be the limitation in the future, and can we just come up with this new system? That's it.
Linking a billion.
Sorry. What is your notion about ownership of data in the future? Because today there is a big debate. Who owns the data?
Well, I personally am in favor of giving data ownership to the person which the data is about, if it's a person. Yeah?
It's about the person.
If it's about a person. If it's about something else, you can discuss. I'm a big fan of openness. I don't say that information has to come for free. So I think we need basically free data, but also commercial data. But even commercial data should be open. Yeah? That in the sense that everybody can use them if you pay a certain price for it. I think only then you can use the potential of information system.
Yeah, and particularly I think that the system of micropayments would democratize that information that is still commercial, because then in its micropayment, by the fact that lots of people would use it, each of which would pay very little, it would still be possible to make money out of data without restricting the access of people. Well, the old model, like with Encyclopedia Britannica, for which you needed to take a yearly subscription that was very high, that's not good neither for Encyclopedia Britannica nor for the people who want to use it. If you read one Encyclopedia Britannica article and you pay 10 cents for it, that would be much better.
I have still an encyclopedia for some money.
Okay. Maybe you should take a chance. To basically cover the past 2,000 years from by scanning in this encyclopedia.
There was one thing that you didn't touch upon in your presentation. It was the knowledge accelerator or the innovation accelerator.
That will be my next talk the next time I come.
We would like to hear more about that as well, because that's also one of the things we try to model in our global brain model, but we're still just starting, I think.
Right.
Actually, that's a second project. It's we call it the Interversity. It's an idea of what would be the global university of the future. It would be a completely open university. Anybody, anywhere in the world would be able to learn from it, to add data to it, to discuss data, and it would be self-organizing, so that students who want to learn about a certain topic, after a while, there would be kind of like trails formed by other students, so that they would know which are the best species to know about this subject and which is the best order to follow them. And maybe you've heard about the POEM project. There were some people presenting it in Barcelona, Jeffrey Johnson and Pierre Correa are involved in it. And what we are envisaging is a more ambitious version of that, in the sense that the POEM project is basically about education. Well, our project would be about a universe. That means research plus education plus application. That means innovation towards technology. Because all these functions cannot really be separated. The moment that you, as a researcher, develop some new knowledge, you would like to make it available for others to learn about it. So that's kind of like education.
Right. And
thanks to hypertext models like Wikipedia, but more intelligent, more self-organizing, that can be done. And that, I think, would be the ideal knowledge accelerator.
Did you ever get this collection of special opposition papers, a special issue?
Of the Physics journal.
Yeah, European
Yes,
Physics.
I've seen that. Yes, I have most of these papers.
Ah,
There was also one about education, I remember.
Education accelerator, innovation accelerator, planetary system, social participated platform,
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Interesting to discuss with you. Wish good luck with the global brain, and please keep me in the loop.